Hello everyone. Today we'll be going through the multiple choice paper or paper 1 for English A. And the paper we are looking at today is June 2016. Now, paper 1 is divided into two parts. The first section, which will contain about 25 questions, are called the discrete items. The next half will look at reading comprehension. So the discrete items, what you look out for is where you're being tested on somewhat the setup of the language, the words that make up the language. Do you know how to identify when a sentence is grammatical? Do you know how to identify sentences that are saying the same thing? Synonyms, antonyms, and it really just tests your ability to know the mechanics of the language. So it could come down to punctuations as well, and even spelling. So let us do this. It is very important as well that you read every instruction that comes with each section. For items 1 to 5, our instruction says, each sentence has either 1 or 2 words missing. Choose from the 4 options the word or pair of words which best completes the meaning of the sentence. Then you'll mark your choice on your answer sheet. Okay. Now, our instruction now is telling us that our sentence already has a meaning. It just needs to be completed. So it is very important to try to look at what this sentence is trying to tell us already, even with the word missing or words. And therefore, you'll be able to choose the best word to not change the meaning of the sentence. Number 1, despite his short temper, his willingness to give up his wealth to help others to succeed led people to call him. And so we're looking at the context. What are we learning about this person? Yes, he's short-tempered, but he's willing to give up his wealth. That sounds like someone who is kind. And so our best option would be C, benevolent, which means to be kind. Number 2, when parents display, meaning show, a blank for one child, the others are likely to feel. All right, so what's the context? We're seeing children showing something for one child. The others are going to feel. Okay, our best answer would be C, preference. You show a preference, you prefer one child, almost like you have a favorite. Of course, the others will feel jealous. Number 3, an attack on someone when that person is most vulnerable may be blank, but is always blank. You attack someone when they're most vulnerable. Vulnerable meaning you're at a weak point. So you attack them when they're weak. Good attack, right? But the but now, of course, is showing contrast. So we're looking for 2 words that are contrasting. So our best answer would be, it's effective, but it's unkind, right? So to attack somebody when they are at their low point, it can work. It could be a very good attack, very effective, but it is always unkind. So our answer is D. Number 4, while the committee members blank insults across the floor, the chairman tried in vain to blank order, I'm sorry. So the committee members were doing something with the insults across the floor, okay? And so far, all our options look like they could work. They, except B is a little bit off in terms of grammar. But the committee members, they're doing something with the insults, and what's our chairman trying to do? So our answer would definitely be A. They're hurling insults across the floor, and so the chairman is trying to restore murder, to make things back to normal as best as possible, right? Number 5, to conceal his true activities. And when we say conceal, we're talking about hiding. So he's trying to hide what he's really doing, his true activities. The spy quickly did what? In terms of a plausible excuse. And we make excuses. So what do you think would be the best word to show that this spy, something about an excuse, so that he can hide what he was really doing? He would have A, fabricated an excuse, meaning to make up an excuse. And there we have it. We have items 1 to 5. Now we're moving to items 6 to 10. Always read your instructions. The instructions: some of the sentences in this section are unacceptable because of inappropriate grammar, idiom, or vocabulary. Some sentences are acceptable as they stand. No sentence contains more than one inappropriate element. Now we're going to choose whether it's A, B, C, or E that is inappropriate or has an error, or we will choose D if the sentence is fine. Number 6. And so we're looking out for many things now. It could be that the word choice was wrong. It could be that the verbs do not agree with the subject. So we're really looking out for these simple little things in the language. 6. There is hardly a point to our knocking, as no one is not at home. Now the problem we have here is that we're using two negatives. No one is at home. Okay, so C is our problem. So C is the error. Number 7. Had they not been forewarned, they might have joined the queue, not knowing that gas was not on sale at that station. Had they not been forewarned, right, they would have, they might have, yes, so we are fine so far. Not knowing, yes, so our sentence is fine as it stands, so our answer is D. Let's move down to number 8. Okay, the problem with the students is. Now, this is something that can confuse us because we see students and then we see is, but is our verb is for the students? Not at all, because we started by saying the problem. So if we had omitted the with the students section, we would say the problem is, okay? So the problem with the students is, the problem is. So we are fine that they arrive late, gives no excuse, and are rude when spoken to. No, remember we said the problem is, all right. But the problem now is related to the students, which of course students is plural. So for verbs, we have to make sure we know what verbs go with what subject. So is was for problem, but now we're saying they arrive late. We're also saying they give. So B is our problem because they give no excuse and they are rude. So our gives is the problem. It does not agree with students. Number 9, June prefers to lie in bed, not wanting to go to school, nor does any work. So obviously all these verbs are underlined, which means either one of them has a problem and is unacceptable, or there is actually no error at all. And this one is a bit tricky. I looked at it and I thought, you know, the first verb could be a problem. Maybe we could have said June prefers lying in bed, not wanting to go to school. But then I got to C and I thought, I think there is something wrong with C rather than A, because it could be that June prefers to lie in bed. And okay, she prefers to lie in bed. What does she do about, you know, this condition that she's in, this preference that she has. So she prefers to lie in bed, not wanting to go to school, not wanting to do this, not wanting to do that. And I thought, when I saw that joining word nor, the verb no is a little bit out of place. It probably would be best to say not wanting to go to school nor to do any work. And so that would be my error there at C. Even though, you know, we're still a bit torn, I choose C. It could have been the issue where we could say June prefers lying in bed. But I must stick with C. And number 10, the biased reporter is concerned not so much with the truth of what he writes as with its credibility. I'll say the only error that or the only problem I see with C is that we really did not have to say with again, because we said not so much with the truth as its credibility. And there was no need to really repeat that word with. And so I'd say C is the error. Okay, now we're down to items 11 to 15. This is going to be a section that really requires that you read that original sentence, know what it is saying to you, so that when you see other sentences, you can say no, or you can say yes, because we're looking for the sentence that says almost the same, if not the same as the original sentence. We don't want to be adding, and we don't want to be taking away. We don't want to be changing the meaning of the original sentence. So this is the skill here, equivalent sentences. The instructions, each sentence in this section is followed by 4 sentences, A, B, C, and D. Choose the one nearest in meaning to the original sentence. So number 11. Original sentence is, the news shocked me so much that I almost forgot what I wanted to say. So I almost forgot. I didn't actually forget, but I was like, wow, I almost forgot. And I almost forgot what I wanted to say because what? The news shocked me so much. So we turn the sentence around in our heads, try to make it actually make sense to us so that we will be able to better identify which sentence is saying the same thing. So the news was so shocking. Yes, it was. We know that because it said that the news shocked me so much that I could not move. Definitely off. There was no mention of movement. B, I could hardly remember my message. Well, we know that the original sentence talked about almost forgetting what the person wanted to say. So, okay, after such shocking news. Sounds like it. C, I nearly didn't speak again. No, that is way off. Almost forgetting something and almost not being able to speak again. Those are not saying the same thing. After the shock of the news. Yes, we know the news was shocking, but the nearly didn't speak again, it's a bit stretched from what was originally said. And D, I was so shocked by the news that I could hardly speak. Okay, it's not about not being able to speak. The original sentence said that the person just forgot. At least they almost forgot what they wanted to say, right? So if you almost forgot, it means you had a problem remembering. And so B would be the answer. Number 12. If students' efforts are rewarded, they would be encouraged to work harder. What does that mean? If we reward the efforts of the students, give them prizes, I don't know, acknowledge them, then they would be encouraged to work harder. And so we're going to look through the sentences and choose the best one. Students must be encouraged to work hard. I mean, yeah, but that's not what their original sentence said. They would actually be encouraged themselves to work harder if we reward them for the efforts they put in. So no. Look at B, if students work harder, they will be praised for their effort. If they work harder, then we praise them. We're actually saying let's praise them for what they put in, and they will work harder. So no. C, students whose efforts are compensated. Okay, not too bad, because we did say we want to reward their efforts. They're saying generally work better. That's where we're off, because there wasn't a generalization that they would, but we're just saying, I'm sorry, there's not a generalization that they do work better because they're compensated, and compensated is a little bit different from being rewarded, but let's work with it. But it's a little bit off because we're saying they work better, but the original sentence, they would actually be encouraged to work harder. So D, if students are praised for their efforts, okay, because we say we reward them, we praise them, they usually work harder. And I like this one more than C, especially because compensated, I didn't too like that word. So we're rewarding them, we're praising them. I'm going with D, we're praising them, and so they will, right, they will usually work harder. And yes, the work better is a little bit off as well in C. So let's stick with D as our answer. Number 13. No right thinking person who has lived in the country will fail to understand my disgust at noise. No right thinking person who has lived in the country will fail. So if you are a right thinking person, you will not fail to understand. If you're right thinking, then you will understand that I discuss noise. So that's what our sentence is saying. So let's look at our options, and we're at 13. Every right thinking person will understand my disgust at noise in the country. Okay, but we said these right thinking persons have to live in the country. So if you live in the country and you're right thinking, then you will understand. So let's hold on A first. It's not too bad. B, noise in the country is as disgusting to me as it is to all right thinking people. There was no comparison. There was no mention that yes, I discussed it and they discussed it too. No. So we're gonna scrap that. C, my disgust at noise will be understood. Will be? We changed the verbs a bit, but anyway, let's look at it. My disgust at noise will be understood by any right thinking person who has lived in the country. It's not too bad. Not too bad, because we're saying if you are right thinking, then you will understand. Once you're living here in this country and you are right thinking, you will understand. So C sounds good. A, we're still holding. D, it is inconceivable that a right thinking person in the country could fail. All right, we're not even going to go any further with that. This sounds too harsh. We're not saying that they could fail. We're saying they know. If you are a right thinking person, you will know. And so I'm gonna go with C as the best option, because we're saying if you live in the country, I like that. A doesn't talk about living in the country, these right thinking persons. So C is our final answer. Number 14. The youth of the country need to organize themselves into cooperatives in order to support the Prime Minister's drive for self-sufficiency. So important that we pay attention to the words. The youth need to organize themselves into cooperatives. Why? So in order to answer the question why do they need to do this? And they do this because it shows that they support the Prime Minister's drive for self-sufficiency. So we're looking for the sentence that says the same thing. A, if you look at it already, it's off. Why? Cooperatives are the only means. The original sentence never said that that's the only thing they can do. And by the way, the rest of the sentence is off anyway, because it's not about the youth achieving anything. The Prime Minister has a plan or a drive for self-sufficiency, and The youth can show that they support this drive. All right, so let's get rid of A. B, the youth should show their support for the Prime Minister's plans for self-sufficiency by organizing themselves into cooperatives. Let's hold that one. C, the Prime Minister advised the youth. Well, that clearly is off because there was no mention of him telling them or advising them that this is what they should do if they're going to support this drive. D, in order to support the plan for self-sufficiency, the youth need to organize themselves and cooperate with the Prime Minister. Okay, so it said they would organize themselves into cooperatives, not organize themselves and cooperate with the Prime Minister. So this one is clearly off, and so we're gonna go with B. So remember, they need to do this organization because that's how they will show their support, and so that's what we're saying. Good. B is our final answer. We're moving down to the last one in this section, is it? Yes, the last one in this section, number 15. The Europeans who were not well off. And to be not well off means you're not rich, you know, you don't live an extravagant life. You're probably on the poor side, yes? So the Europeans who were not well off were those who came to the West Indies in search of wealth. They searched for wealth, meaning they searched for some kind of riches, some kind of money, fortune, I guess. So it was those who were not really rich who came to the West Indies. A, Europeans settled in the West Indies because they were told that they would become richer. Now that is just not what the original sentence said. We're not looking for explanations of the original sentence. We're looking for which sentence says the same thing. So no, the original sentence did not mention anything about being told that they would be rich, and that's why they should move to the West Indies or come to the West Indies. B, unemployment at home. Well, we said they were not well off, but we don't know why. We don't know if it was because of unemployment. So we cannot say that the sentence is saying the same thing. B, financial difficulties. Again, there was no mention of why they were not well off. So B and C are just there to distract you. A is clearly off. So let's hope that these are answer. Europeans who came to the West Indies to seek their fortune, same thing as to search for wealth, yes, were the ones who were not wealthy. Exactly, they were not well off, they were not wealthy, and those were the Europeans who came to the West Indies. And that's another section on June 2016. We're moving down. All right, we are still on June 2016. We're moving down. We're at items 16 to 20. Again, always read your instructions. So now we're selecting the option A, B, C, or D based on its description of the sentences that follow. All right, A means that the sentence we are presented with is two-worded. That is, it has repetition, so it's repetitive, or it contains redundancies. And I'll explain them as we go along, but worded does not mean it is a long sentence. It pretty much means that you're hearing the same meaning coming out more than once, when it could have just been written, you know, minus a piece of that, and it could have just been a simple sentence that doesn't sound like you're hearing the same message over and over again. And B, the sentence contains cliches or misused metaphors. So we're using metaphors which are comparisons without using the as or like. Cliches are, they're almost like proverbs where, you know, you hear these sayings and they probably don't even mean that much to you, but you hear the sayings probably from older folks. And so they've been around for a while. But in this case, we're looking for metaphors that just do not match what the sentence is trying to, you know, tell us. And then C, we're looking where the sentence has grammatical errors, or there are words that weren't supposed to be there because it just takes away from the meaning. So maybe the choice of word was just really bad. And then D, the sentence would be fine. So it would be acceptable. So let us move right down. Number 16. He advanced a step or two to meet his attacker, who suddenly became alarmed and retreated back 4 or 5 paces. The sentence was really going well, as much as it looks, you know, like it's saying a lot. It isn't really wordy in the sense that it has too many words, but there was one thing, there was a redundancy where it says retreated back. To retreat is already saying move back. So we didn't have to say back. It's like almost reverse back. Reverse means to go backward. So this is our error. So we will choose A. It contains redundancy. 17. Traffic bottlenecks must be ironed out if we are to prevent giant traffic congestion. Traffic bottlenecks, and we know bottlenecks. If we look at a bottle, think about the neck of the bottle. It's narrow. All right, so we're going to figure out what is wrong with this sentence. So these bottlenecks must be ironed out. Now, all right, and we get what the sentence is saying, because this ironing out of, you know, you say you have problems, we need to iron out our issues, iron out our problems. But is it okay to say we're going to iron out the traffic bottlenecks? That's where our problem is. So the metaphor here is just not used properly. Okay, so we're going to go with B. 18. The politician hammered the nail of his argument, and we're here in the metaphors, right? Hammered the nail of his argument. Okay, doesn't sound bad, but what does he do now? Or how is this hammered? Into the leafy minds of his audience. Okay, into the minds of his audience, okay, into the ears of his audience, okay, but leafy minds, how does that work? And so we're thinking now that this metaphor, it was going so well, but it just didn't go very well after that. So my problem with it is the leafy mind, all right? So we're gonna already go with B. Number 19. Seldom do people declare that they are not the products of their environment. Sentence is fine. Seldom meaning not often. So seldom meaning rarely. And everything else is fine. Do people declare, I mean, our grammar is fine. So, and there's no metaphor here. There's no repetition or redundancy. So our sentence here is fine. And 20, the modern approach to fitness is to adopt a holistic approach. And we have a colon. We're expecting that after this, we'll see a list of what this holistic approach is. And yes, it's physical, mental, and emotional. And the word adopt means to take on. And so it is used correctly. It's not adapt. Adapt meaning, you know, respond to change and fit, make the necessary changes to fit as change arises. But we're saying that they adopt a holistic approach. And this is the modern way to fitness. And our sentence, therefore, is fine.